So I have a case to review with you.
Okay.
And I figured we'd go ahead and record this because this is one, I don't know how I've never run into a case like this because I've signed over 1,000 people at this point. So it's a male. He's, I think, like 56 years old. His only allegations is he has a learning disability. He can't read or write at all. Only his name. He can text because he uses the speech function on his phone, and then he uses the microphone to text back.
Okay.
He's actually illiterate. 8th grade education, was in special ed all throughout school. The reason I didn't sign him and I didn't really know what to ask, he doesn't really have any treatment, but like I don't know what the treatment would be if you have a learning disability, 8th grade education, special ed. So I don't even, is that a case we want? Is that a case we can help with?
Well,
I didn't even really know what other questions to ask him.
right.
Super nice guy.
On a case like that, you would see my eyes start lighting up when you say 56, and then you say 8th grade education, and
Looking good, yeah.
I'm like, and then you go to what is really a psychological cognitive impairment, and okay, well now now you drop me back down to earth, because on a physical case, if they had problems with their back or problems with diabetes or problems with their arms or hands, anything physical, COPD, stuff like that. At that age, I would sign him immediately.
Yeah.
Basically, you just have to prove that he has an impairment. I mean, you wouldn't have to get him really that low of an RFC, or residual functional capacity evaluation. But for somebody with these limitations, regardless of age, it is extremely difficult. It's one of those few times where the younger the individual, the easier it is, because you can get medical records.
Because it's closer to
school
school.
records. Yeah.
Yep.
And so if there's, a 30-year-old, okay, well, they graduated or they got a certificate usually, 12 years ago. I could probably get those records still. 56-year-old, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Going back like 40 years.
So what would happen is you'd just want the administration to purchase a consultative exam. I'd still sign.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's telling you that, I can't even text, I'm using a voice recognition thing, and that's how I do. I can't read. And I would ask, usually the follow-up questions when they say they can't read, I'm like, are you talking about that, you can't, read a newspaper article and make sense of it? Or are you talking about that you literally couldn't read the instructions on the outside of a building, how to get in? Because those are two different things.
Yeah.
One of them is debilitating, and one of them's like an inconvenience.
Yeah, I left a couple things out. Because I did ask him a little bit more about that. He hasn't worked in like 13 years,
Yeah.
and he's been looking for work. But every time he goes to a job interview and he mentions he's actually illiterate, I mean, they're not going to hire him because of that. So he's been out of work for a long time. He's been trying to get a job, and he just can't because of his education.
Yeah. Yeah, I would take the case, and we would actually, it's kind of a pointless exercise to request a consultative exam because they're going to buy one. And what they would likely do is do what they call a CIIQ, which is a clinical interview with IQ testing. Find out where he's at cognitively. Usually one of the things that a clinical interviewer, psychologist usually, is going to determine is what grade level are they functioning at. If he's got an 8th grade education, if he can't read well enough to text, then he doesn't have, he's not at 8th grade.
Yeah, exactly.
Because 8th grade people can read books, most of them. So they'll determine really what his grade level is like, and the argument that would probably win his case is he can't function even in an unskilled job, even slinging fries or slinging burgers. You got
to read the order.
Requires that you're
Read
able.
the recipe.
Yeah. So you can make a pretty good argument of that. And then his age, even though it's not a grid rule case, because the mental impairments don't have a grid rule. His age would still play into, he's 56. He's not going back to school. He's not going to have any kind of outside tutoring that's going to, okay, you're 56, and now we're going to pick up where you left off, wherever you got out of school in the 8th grade. It's just not, at that point, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic to happen. And likely, if he's shooting straight with us, likely the consultative exam is going to come back and it's going to show, yeah, there's no way that he could, there's really 4 work categories that they look at from a mental health standpoint: understanding and remembering. He'd have difficulty with that. Concentrating, staying on pace, being persistent, basically to be able to do those things in 2-hour increments. Could he do those kinds of things? Probably not. The third one is social interaction. What about getting along with others? He'd probably be okay in that. That's
unless there's something else going on.
Yeah, that's probably something that somebody with learning disability is not really going to have too much of a problem with. But then the last one, I think, is probably the one that's just going to be the big red flag, and that is adaptation. Could he recognize normal workplace hazards? Could he operate in even in a structured environment to where his boss has trained him on something, and then the next week the work duties have to be changed a little bit because the jobs change. I mean, in a work setting, your jobs, even though you have the same title and you kind of do the same things every day, there is a change from day to day to day.
Yeah.
And if your boss comes in and says, "Hey, listen, I know that you normally do this, but I need you to do this," somebody with significant learning disorder, significant cognitive problems would probably not be able to adapt. And that's probably where I would see what I would expect to see. Okay, well here's why this guy's disabled.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm happy that's your answer because I wanted to help that guy, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And they're I don't want to say they're harder cases, but when they're older and most of your cognitive function is going to come from school records. If you're in special ed, those records are going to show the problems that you have. A lot of times we get IQ testing. It's not necessarily valid for an adult if it was done before they were 18, but it'll still show. Okay, yeah, they've got this cognitive impairment, and it's lifelong. If it was happening when they were 15 and 16, there's cognitive impairments, IQs. Intellectual deficits, they don't get better. I mean, you have what you have. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, cool. I'll get him signed tomorrow. Start working on it.
Good.